Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Dr. Quack, and this is the House Calls. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different here. I'm going to do a lot of different things here in the near future. I mean, I know I've been covering Promo World for quite some time, but I am venturing out and doing other stuff. This is actually going to be a movie review, and this one here, it's a little bit odd because this is going to be a 6-part movie. Let me just explain this. There will actually be 6 different parts that I am covering of this series, talking about Universal Soldier. Yes, I'm going to tell you just off the jump, I have only seen 2 of these. I've seen the original, and I have seen the return. Both of these movies, yeah, they're definitely some interesting ones. I love the original. The original I thought was one of the greatest movies Van Damme did. Definitely one of his best ones. We're going to get into the rest of those, but that's what we're going to cover here today. Because I'll tell you, Universal Soldier, it was quality. You had Jean-Claude Van Damme, you had Dolph Lundgren. Yeah, Dolph Lundgren, if you remember him, he was Ivan Drago in the Rocky movies. And he was also He-Man in the Masters of the Universe movie. Nobody really wants to talk about that one. But yeah, this one here was one of his quality roles. Sergeant Andrew Scott. And GR44 over here is Van Damme, Luke Devereaux. Basically, the story is these two were both in Vietnam. There was a hostage situation. Van Damme's character did not like what Dolph Lundgren did, and they basically got into a firefight and killed each other. But that's only the beginning, because they end up going to a research lab, which is really wild. They end up going there. They want to do some government work and recreate the Universal Soldiers. There were several of those in here. Also, a big thing here that not a lot of people know, tiny listener, Zeus, Debo. I believe this was his first movie. This was a small role for him. He was one of the Universal Soldiers in this. Really interesting stuff with that. But yeah, it was wild because they brought him back to life, right? They had this stuff they would inject into him that would make him alive. And, they wanted to keep it top secret. And of course they couldn't, because eventually things get found out. And what happened? Yeah, the reporter found out, and she looked into it, and they found the dead bodies in the ice boxes, and oh my God, we got to go tell the world. The government didn't like that, so they tried to stop her, and ended up what happening? The reporter took Luke Devereaux down the road, ended up going down there and saying, you're coming with me. You're not going to be a part of this no more. And it's wild on the tail because of these two. Because Van Damme's character, GR44, he just wanted to go home from Vietnam. Right? That was his big story. He didn't care about the world. The war was over. He just wanted to go home. Right? And you look at Sergeant Andrew Scott, Dolph Lundgren there. You look at his character. He was all about the war. He was all about continuing on. He was all about, we're going to get them until the end. We're going to kill them until the end. Like even there's the one line in the movie where they're in the meat market, right? Because the only way to keep these guys alive is to have them be cold. Like you'll notice with Van Damme out there in the hotel, he'll be in the ice box. And you'll notice when they brung him to the supermarket. And Dolph, he went out there and said, you're just like all the others. You just want to go home. He was what they called a killing machine. He wanted to continue on. He did not care. He wanted to continue the fight. But this movie, if you have not seen it, this is definitely one worth watching. I will tell you that the original stands alone by itself as a quality film. If you're from Gen Z, this is definitely one that you will watch. You may cringe a little bit because it is pretty violent. And it is somewhat realistic. I will say that with the way things kind of happen. But I will tell you what really shocks me here, okay, on this first film. This first film, I give 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think this is one of the better Van Damme movies, and a pretty good military movie as well. Definitely among the tops. Because Dolph Lundgren, spoiler alert, okay? So if you're watching, you might want to stop here for a minute. At the end, Dolph Lundgren, yeah, I keep wanting to call him Dolph Ziggler, sorry, wrestling. Dolph Lundgren ends up getting killed. They put him into the wood chipper, and, you know, all this blood and meat comes out, you know, at the end, because they're fighting on his farm. He eventually makes it home. You know, Luke Devereaux makes it home. But it was just wild how a lot of this recreated. This was pretty advanced. I mean, this was 1992. For its time, it was definitely, you know, I would say an advancement in the film industry. It was definitely worth watching. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to stop this here. I'm going to get ready to go into part 2. You will see this in separate sections. At the end of this, I will put this out as one complete series, so you will be able to check this out. But in the meantime, I'm Dr. Quack. That was part 1.